Lord of the Mysteries. Chapter 1142. Warning. After removing the paper angel wrapping the ceramic jar, Klein poured the bottle of devil's blood into it, and he stirred it with a glass stick he conjured for some time. Phew, I've finally gathered everything. He looked for a few seconds and sighed. This way, he still had enough time to prepare before George III's ceremony. As for whether the assassin and devil blood had enough time to be rid of the connection with its original host, he wasn't concerned, as he had confirmed that the original owners of the two sets of blood were dead. He divined the origins of the assassin blood to figure out if it belonged to Demonis Trissy. If it did, he considered leaving some and smearing it on the surface of Grozel's travels after everything was over. He was left in disappointment, but he wasn't surprised. He had long realized that Trissy was as cautious as he was. The Demonis pathway also has the instigator sequence. It requires a high level of intelligence. Yes, the instigator and conspirer potions should have the effect of increasing one's intelligence. Otherwise, Danet's future would be bleak. As he thought, he threw the ceramic jar into the junk pile. He then returned to the real world and began to browse through the detailed ritual Trissy had provided. This was a ritual that could help him speak to Mr. Dorr during the full moon. A total of 9 gems. Isn't this too extravagant? He casually muttered as he read it. As a tycoon who had donated quite a bit of money, he still had nearly £30,000 in liquid assets, £14,000 in cash, £15,000 worth of gold bars, £35 of gold coins, and some change. It wasn't that he couldn't afford gems, but it was too wasteful. After thinking for more than 10 seconds, he decided to try using the images in the historical void as stand-ins. After all, he had no intention of pleasing Mr. Dorr. Once the ritual ended and the gems disappeared, Mr. Dorr wouldn't be able to do anything to him. If it doesn't work, I'll consider purchasing it at the jewelry store. Klein stood up and set up a ritual in the room outside the rental flat. After finishing his other preparations, he stretched out his right hand and slowly and heavily grabbed at the thin air in front of him. He pulled out an ancient brass key from the air. This was the key tool to summon Mr. Dorr, the master key. Right after that, Klein grabbed at the air in front of him solemnly again and pulled out an object from thin air. The item emitted a tranquil glow that was in the shape of the full moon. Embedded around it were a row of scarlet gems. In the middle was a symbol representing the moon and many mysterious patterns. Scarlet Lunar Corona. It was the scarlet lunar corona that currently belonged to Sharon. It could create the effects of a full moon, allowing the person holding the master key to hear Mr. Dorr's ravings. If he only wanted to hear what Mr. Dorr was shouting, this would have been sufficient. There was no need to hold any more rituals, but his goal was to speak to the King of Angels. Therefore, he had to follow the procedure. After placing the master key and the scarlet lunar corona on the altar, he recalled for a moment and reached out his right hand again, pulling out a handful from thin air. This time, he took out a gorgeous necklace made studded with diamonds and jadeite. My experiences as Dwayne Dantes are rather useful after all. Otherwise, how could I have come into contact with so many female members of high society and dance with them, allowing me to see accessories of different styles and materials? And without such close proximity for observation, how could I easily summon the corresponding historical void images? This can last 15 minutes. That's enough. Having met his simple goal, Klein sighed in satisfaction. Then, he continued to extend his right hand, preparing to gather the 9 gems he needed from the ladies and madams he knew in the past. In a second, his hand stopped in midair and his expression turned odd. I forgot that I can only maintain 3 historical void images. What should I do? Swap this necklace and find an accessory that has at least 9 gems. Let me think about whether I've seen anything like that before. Yes, I can use dream divination to recall. Is dream divination meant for times like this? Seer and scholar of you are quite compatible after all. Well, this is also an extreme form of magic. Amidst his thoughts, Klein was just about to find a chair and do the divination when he suddenly frowned. He realized that something was amiss. Under normal circumstances, it was impossible for him to forget that he could only summon 3 historical void images at the same time. This is a subtle warning from my spirituality? Looking at the master key and the scarlet lunar corona on the altar, he waved his right hand gently, causing them to vanish. Then, he took 4 steps counterclockwise and recited the honorific name. He went above the gray fog and sat at the seat belonging to the fool. He conjured a pen and paper and carefully wrote, "Speaking to Mr. Dorr now is dangerous." This divination was clearly directed at Mr. Dorr, so Klein was bound to suffer a certain backlash effect. However, he had already obtained basic ownership over Sapphira Castle, allowing him to use the power of an angel, so he believed that he could withstand Mr. Dorr. After all, he was exiled and sealed. He removed the spirit pendulum on his left wrist and held it with his left hand, allowing it to hang over the surface of the paper. He closed his eyes and recited the divination statement 7 times in a high-strung manner. Without a sound, a shadow suddenly flashed across his mind. It seemed to completely screen his spiritual perception. He hurriedly opened his eyes and saw that the topaz pendant had shattered into powder. After my initial grasp of Sapphira Castle, some divinations are more concealed. It won't cause any accidents? Yes, is it because my safety is involved in the matter that this has happened, or is it because the gap between me and Mr. Dorr has been narrowed to a certain extent? Of course, this is referring to the Mr. Dorr who is in a sealed state. Or perhaps, the effects of the two combined? The present result shows that speaking to Mr. Dorr holds untenable danger. Why though? Klein frowned, unable to come up with any effective speculations or reasonable explanations. After a while, he leaned back against the high-backed chair and shook his head with a sigh. He gave up on his original plan. I can only make more preparations in other areas. With his left hand pressed down, the topaz pendant instantly recovered. After all, it was only a projection above the gray fog. Because of the changes in the divination earlier, Klein made some connections. Perhaps prying into the secrets of the twisted and translucent maggots on the main peak of the Hornacis mountain range might not be as dangerous as before. That's highly likely to be a sequence 1 angel of the Antigonus family. It might even be the half-fool that Leonard mentioned to me. If my prying can hold on for a while longer, I can directly discern the formulas of the Sequence 2 Miracle Invoker or Sequence 1 Attendant of Mysteries. There's only one chance. I don't know what sort of developments would happen when dealing with a crazy monster. I'll wait till I'm completely accustomed to the scholar of your potion before making the attempt. Klein rubbed his temples before disappearing from above the gray fog. After returning to the real world, he wasn't in a hurry to clean up the altar. Instead, he sat down and seriously considered what other abnormal preparations he could make. The so-called normal ones were: meeting Queen Mystic once to discuss the details of the cooperation, give Will Alsepton, Rionette Tinker, Pallas Zoros more gifts, pray to the Evernight Goddess and increase the chances of summoning the ascetic, Ariana's historical void image, familiarizing himself with the core powers of Scholar of Yore. As for the abnormal ones, it was purely based on Klein's own imagination. After some thought, Klein's expression turned solemn. He frowned slightly and reached out his right hand to grab the air. This time, he didn't drag anything out. Klein did it another 10 times, but all of them met with failure. He had no choice but to accept a fact: it was impossible to succeed purely by relying on himself. He then took out his wallet and took out a paper crane. On the surface, he wrote with a pencil, "Give me some luck. I'll bring you some ice cream from the Srenzo restaurant." After folding the paper crane, he entered the room and lay down on the bed. He restored his spirituality by sleeping. In his hazy dream, he saw thin, silver snakes forming a response. 5. No problem. Klein smiled and made a promise. At the next moment, he woke up. He sat up and reached out his right hand again, grabbing a total of 10 times. He still met with complete failure. I can't do it even if I'm lucky enough. It's too difficult. Klein subconsciously wanted to use his finger to wrap the edge of the bed, but he instantly restrained himself. It was a habit of his above the gray fog, so it wasn't suitable for him to bring it to the real world. After pacing back and forth for a long time, he seriously considered all kinds of connections. Finally, he left the bedroom and went to the altar outside, which had yet been tidied up. He brought an item back to the real world. It was an ancient book made of goatskin with a dark brown cover. Grozel's Travels. Picking up the book, he took a deep breath, half closed his eyes as if sensing something. Slowly, he reached out his right hand and grabbed very lightly. Failure. Another grab. It was still a failure. After 5 consecutive failures, Klein's actions became even slower, as though he was taking out a piece of charcoal from a glowing red stove. Suddenly, the muscles on his arm tightened and he carefully pulled back. His right hand slowly retracted, slowly dragging out a rather dull, ancient-looking quill. This came from Revival Square of the southern continent's West Balam's northern state, right beside Nsangwil's corpse. This was 0-08 before Amon's brother picked it up.